Hello. We're doing a history interview with E.T. Summers and on with the Cuero Heritage Museum, and we're trying to record history in the making, so we have it for the future residents of Cuero. So good morning, Mr. Summers. How are you today?
Well, fine. How are you?
Good, good.
Certainly glad to see you here.
I know. I'm glad to be here with you.
Good.
Yeah. So I was just going to ask you a couple of questions, and we'll just go from there.
Fine.
So, how was it like growing up in Cuero?
Oh, well, for me, it wasn't real easy. I really didn't grow up till I went to college.
Mm-hmm.
The main reason I'd gone to two different schools
Mm-hmm.
and had two different sets of friends, and that's not easy.
No.
You know. So, and then I worked a lot at the Coca Cola plant. My daddy had me working, and.
What age did you start when you started working at the Coca Cola?
Oh, in my teens.
In your early teens.
Yeah. And I hung around the plant a whole lot before that. That was my favorite place to hang out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, the plant was in two different locations in those days, too. It was down on West Main until about 1931, and they moved up to East Main on that year.
Mm-hmm.
So for me growing up, it was a little difficult, but I had some good, interesting friends.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was J.J. Fisher. We talked about that a while ago.
Uh-huh.
And but it wasn't all easy.
Yeah.
I really did my growing up in college.
In
too.
college. Well, you know that I think that has a lot to do with men. I'm not being partial here that I'm a woman, but
Yeah.
you know, sometimes it takes guys a little longer to grow up.
Well,
but,
yeah.
But it's fun though, wasn't it?
It was. I was the oldest in the family, and so I had to do a lot of pioneering for the rest of the family,
Right,
for other
right.
kids.
How many children were in your family?
5.
5 children.
Yeah.
So you had to be a big role model to the rest of
Well, yeah, I think so.
them. Yes.
And my daddy worked real hard, and really my mother probably raised us a whole lot more than anybody else. I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
She was a delightful, wonderful lady,
Well, that's good.
French lady from New Orleans.
From New Orleans. You were saying you were from Louisiana.
Yeah,
Yeah. What
She-
year did you move here?
we moved to Texas in 1926,
In 1926.
and
How old were you?
8.
8.
And let me tell you this: my mother had 4 sisters. Well, they're stepsisters.
Mm-hmm.
And they told us that her nickname was, well, her name was Albertine, but they called her Teeny. Her sister would say, Teeny, you're making a terrible mistake moving to Texas. So it's a wild country out there.
Oh, my God.
And it was wilder than Louisiana, I will admit.
Mm-hmm.
They would tell her, the cows run loose
Mm-hmm.
and tear up your yard, and you'll do a washing, you put it out on the line, and the wind blows all the time. It'll blow all your clothes off the line. So they had her halfway scared to death, but she moved with my daddy, and I'm sure she had not cows in her yard, but maybe a lot of wind blowing stuff off that line, you know.
Right, right.
But she actually was. Her brothers and sisters were step because her father died. She was originally a Wagner, Peter Wagner's daughter, and he died, and so her mother remarried Aouillet. That was his last name, Jean-Marie Aouillet, a real Frenchman, incidentally, who'd go back to France every so often and see his relatives. And but she was a stout lady too, and she raised all of us real good. I had 2 sisters and 2 brothers.
2 sisters and 2 brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And your dad, I imagine he taught you how to work hard early on in life.
He
right?
did, and then there were some interesting people who worked under him at the plant that taught me a whole lot about life too.
Right, right. Can you remember some of them?
Yeah, a fellow by the name of Luke Leatherwood, who eventually moved to Houston and sold insurance in Houston. I learned a lot from Luke Leatherwood. That's an unusual name, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
He was from, he called it Guadalupe. That's out of Victoria, a little
Right.
place in the road, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And very interesting man. I learned a lot from him.
Well, good, good. At what age did you marry?
About 22, I would guess. I think, but I married in 41.
You got married in 1941.
Yeah, in July 41.
You had a lovely wife.
Oh, thank you very much. She was I'm sorry she's not living because she did a lot for this community, particularly in libraries.
Mm-hmm.
The library and other things like that. She had a lot of friends, like you're talking about, and she taught me a lot too. And only by the grace of God I avoided matrimony with anybody else before. You know,
Well,
only by the
that's good.
grace of God.
Yeah, she was kind of the glue of your family.
She
Huh?
was indeed.
How many children did y'all have?
We had 3.
3
A
children.
girl
Mm-hmm.
before the war,
Mm-hmm.
and 2 boys after the war.
Mm-hmm.
And they call me every day, all 3 of them.
They call you every day.
Every day of the world they call me. It might be at midnight, but they call.
Right, right.
And they live away. One lives, the oldest son lives in San Antonio. The youngest son lives in Meridian, Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
And then Linda lives in Port Lavaca.
In Port Lavaca.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's good. That's good. You have a very close-knit family.
They've been real close to me.
Well, that's good. That's good. When your father purchased the bottling company, Coke wasn't very popular.
Oh,
So
that's
what did he do?
that's the understatement
That's an
of the year.
understatement.
That's
So
the
what did he do to increase that business?
Well, let me tell you what he did. He used to deliver it off of the trucks.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd slip a bottle of Coca Cola in with all these other bottles of orange, strawberry, root beer, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And when he come back, the merchant would give him that bottle back and say, well, I can't sell this stuff. You know?
Uh-huh.
And so he had to take it back.
Mm-hmm.
And Coke, the main, see, Coke was stored in Atlanta, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And the cities closest to Atlanta were the most better developed, as you might imagine. In Texas was pretty far from Atlanta. It
Right.
still is a long way from Atlanta. So it developed a lot slower here than in Louisiana. So it took a while to develop this here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But he knew it had a good future, and he'd seen it happen. He'd worked for some people in Louisiana. Had a subcontract, but didn't have a permanent contract. And here, this offered a permanent contract in Cuero.
Mm-hmm.
There was Cuero was available, Austin was available, and Brownsville.
And Brownsville.
And we came to Cuero because Cuero had a pretty good sized population because it picked a lot of cotton around here.
Yes.
And cotton pickers drink a lot of Coca-Cola or soft drinks.
Or soft drinks.
Yeah.
Well, it was hot. They had to drink something.
Really? Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's good.
But these mechanical pickers, they don't drink much Coca-Cola.
Yeah. So what was your path on your leadership to your business? How did you start out in the...
Oh, I started out of college as the sales manager for the business.
Okay.
And then that was about 1939. And let's see, about my daddy had well, after my daddy ran during the war, I was going 3.5 years in Europe, well, 2 years in Europe and the rest of the United States. So he ran it till I got back, which was about 1945.
Mm-hmm. Could you tell me some things about your World War II experiences?
Well, I was very fortunate. I volunteered for the Army because I knew I was going to be drafted. I had no children, and they were taking everybody without children in those days.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew I was going to be drafted, so I volunteered, and I went. They sent me to Fort Francis worn out in Wyoming for basic training, with the proviso that I could appear before a board and possibly be selected to go to officer's candidate school,
Oh, okay.
which I thought was, if I had to be there, I might as well be making a little money, not $50 a month. So I did. I went before the board and was selected, and they sent me to Fort Lee, Virginia, which is not far from Washington. And I went to OCS there, and then they sent me back to Fort Sam to the officer's depot there. And I got picked up, I don't know how or why, but to go to a school at Harvard, Harvard Business School, which is on the Boston side. You know, it's the river separates Harvard from undergraduate schools on one side, on the Cambridge side, and B schools on the other side, on the Boston side. And so they sent me there, and to be a contract renegotiator, because everybody was cheating the government in those days. You know, these big companies would cheat the government. So you want to renegotiate a contract. So I was supposed to do that. Well, I didn't have enough accounting, I guess. Anyway, I didn't make the team on that. So then they sent me overseas. So that really helped me when I went overseas, because they sent me to London. I was there for 7 months in London, doing the buzz bombs and the B-2s and all those bad things. And it was totally blacked out. So I went there, and then when I went to the continent, they sent me to Paris on the Champs-Élysées. And I was there for something less than a year. And then we moved out to Versailles.
So when you started into the business, did you have to start at the very bottom and work your way up?
You're exactly right.
I know.
You've been reading my script.
No, I just know that, you know, a hardworking man, that's how they learn.
Yeah.
My husband did the same thing with my son. They start out, you know, pounding nails before you can.
I didn't mind. I didn't mind the hard work. I objected to the low salary. But because by that time I had married, and Lou came along in '61, yeah, and I had responsibilities, and but my daddy was pretty tough. He didn't treat his kids any different than he treated anybody else, to tell you the truth.
Well, that's a true, honest man.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. So can you tell me how the Coke business has changed over the years? How do you think it's changed over the years?
Probably one of the biggest changes in the business is the concern about people for calories. That's what brought out Tab. That was the first sugar-free, and then Diet Coke, and now Coke Zero.
Right.
So that has changed a lot, and people are really concerned about their calories. Now they'll eat a big meal, but complain maybe about a Coke, a few sips of Coca Cola, but the main calories come from food, you know.
Right. Right.
And they're not cutting back as fast on that as they are on soft drinks. And another thing, the bigger buyers, it's like everything else in this world, the big people buy up the little people.
Right.
And consolidate their business. And I didn't object to that here, because San Antonio Coca Cola bought us, and I knew those people. My family knew. My dad and Mr. Beatenhorn from San Antonio Coke were friends, and we were all friends. You got some more questions?
Oh yeah.
Good.
Let's talk about the turkey trot.
Oh, good.
You were the chairman in 1967. You were the parade chairman. So tell us some of the preparations and some of the problems for the big event. How did that big event take place?
Well, before '67, I was a sultan in 1960.
Right, right.
Uh, and it was quite an event in those days. It was very, very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
We had to rent the floats we rented from the Tyler Rose Festival, and I think we got about 6 floats and paid them $10,000 rent. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
And they went on to the San Antonio after that to the Fiesta
Mm-hmm.
parade. That was one problem, money.
Money.
Second was the birds.
Yes.
They were not raised to walk.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they were raised to eat.
Yes.
And the more edible they became, the less walkable they became. And they'd pass out and die right in the middle of the street.
Oh.
And the parade that I was chairman of was particularly bad. We had a hot day in, I guess, October, and they just died right in the middle of the street. We had to have a pickup go along and pick up the dead birds.
Oh no.
That didn't go well with people. Very, very bad. In fact, we might have got mentioned nationally on something like that. Because it was cruel, and these were big birds. They were raised broad-breasted, you know,
Right, right.
and they just couldn't walk.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the turkey trot was doomed. It couldn't go on like that. Then later on, out here in the country would raise some wild turkeys, and they tried walking them. I don't know whatever happened to that, but they were not broad-breasted.
Mm-hmm.
But it was an expensive thing. Everybody had a lot of fun. It was a big party, and they had the coronation, and they had all this stuff. And somebody said, "Oh, how did you feel when you was a sultan?" I think they had the coronation over at the school. I said, "Well, I felt like I was king of the road." I said, sitting up on that throne, and all those beautiful girls, duchesses from all over the country, down below, and I said, "I tell you, it's a pretty good feeling."
Yeah. Well, you were the sultan. Who was your sultana that year?
Marianne.
Carruthers?
Hmm?
Was it Marianne Carruthers?
You got it. Marianne Carruthers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. She was a gorgeous woman.
She was a very pretty
I
lady.
remember seeing her pictures in the museum of the.
Yeah. She was a pretty lady, and she was easy to get along with. I had no problem with Marianne. Some people have had problems with her, but I had none.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, she married Newton Warsaker, and they had some children, and they lived in Corpus, and I think somebody died in a car wreck down there, and I don't know, it probably just caused a schism or something.
Mm-hmm.
But now she's married Bull Ronnie Lots. Did you know that?
Right. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And I knew Bull through J.D. Bramlett, and he was familiar with him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But in those days, what you do is the royalty would have to have a big party for all the people that worked on the coronation and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Richie Taylor, you'd appoint a chairman. You ever know Richie Taylor?
No, I did never meet him.
I'm sorry you didn't know him. He was quite a guy.
Mm-hmm.
He lived out close to Hoheim, between Concrete and Hoheim.
Okay.
I had a ranch out there.
Mm-hmm.
But Richie was my appointee, and her group appointed somebody, and they'd get together. It was all very secret, and that's where they handled it.
And they had a big party for all the people that volunteered?
Big party for all the people that worked, yeah, exactly. And a month later, Marianne and Newton Warsaker married.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a party over at the Lutheran Parish Hall, just like we had the turkey trot party.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's so much booze consumed, they must have messed up the hall pretty good, because From then on, there's no more parties at Lutheran Parish Hall with booze.
With booze, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
What about Dr. Harold High?
Who?
Dr. Harold High.
Oh, I love Harold too. Uh, uh, and I think everybody in Cuero that knew Dr. Harold loved him, as far as I could tell. Well, I have a funny story to tell about that, but I don't want to tell it or not. It's a little off color.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. And Harold told me this himself, so I know it's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
When he first came to Cuero, there was a big two-story white house over on Esplanade.
Mm-hmm.
You probably don't remember it. I think Mary and Leonard lived there. Well, Harold, when he first came to Cuero, he had an office on the ground floor of this two-story white house. And like they do with all new doctors, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
they appointed him as the county health doctor.
Oh, okay.
Guess what he had to do?
What do you have to do?
Inspect Rosie's girls.
Oh my gosh.
But they wouldn't come through the front door, they'd come through the side door
Uh-huh.
on French Street.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, they came in one Monday morning. They always came in on a Monday morning.
Mm-hmm.
They came on a Monday morning and they put him in the back room. And about that time, Brother Sanders, you didn't know him, I don't suppose.
Mhm.
He was a Baptist preacher here.
Okay.
They called him Brother Sanders. He came in the front door.
Mm-hmm.
And Hal called Paul on. He said, don't let him, for whatever you do, don't let him go through that back door. Don't let him ever go through the back door, because Hal went to church over there.
Oh, uh-huh.
And, but, so that's true. Hal told me that himself, so I know it's true.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know of anybody that didn't like Harold High.
Right. What about Terry Newman?
Very enterprising man, very enterprising, and big new dealer, you know, and smart man. He was mayor here, and of course he and Mr. Fisher didn't get along too good, but
Well, you said he owned a lumber yard,
he owned a lumber yard on.
but didn't he do something else? What else? Was he a judge or something in Cuero?
Well, no, he was in the legislature,
Oh, okay.
I think.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom Cheatham was also in the legislature. And Tom was a lawyer, but Terry was not a lawyer. But
Mhm.
Terry was a smart man.
Mm-hmm.
And he was mayor at one time. Well, my daddy
He was
on
mayor, okay.
When my daddy was on his council.
Okay. Okay.
And then my daddy said, I'm gonna get off because of my health. And what he made me get on.
So you were on the city council here as well. Huh?
Yeah, I really didn't want to get on it, and that's the least rewarding job I ever had in Cuero. I've had a lot of jobs here, but that was the least rewarding.
That was. Huh?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I enjoyed the guys that were on it. Walter Richter was mayor by that time.
Mm-hmm.
Penn Beakley was on there, and Billy Cusack, and Mr. Spangle. You never knew Mr. Spangle, I'm sure.
No.
You wouldn't. He fitted into the woodwork.
Oh, okay.
He was on the council for years and years and years, and nobody would run against him because he couldn't beat him. He did it for the money, and it wasn't that much money, but
Right.
$50 I think is what they
Oh
paid.
man. Yeah. What
Yeah.
about Clifton Weber?
Oh, that is one of my real close friends. I never bought another vehicle but a Ford. But one time, I had a salesman in Hallettsville, Bill Mechon, who was friends with the International Harvester dealer there. And he said, don't send me any more Ford. Let me buy one from my friend who runs this business here. And that sounded like a reasonable request, so I did. And about 6 months later, he came back to me and said, if I ever tell you that I want to buy something other than a Ford, don't let me do it. But I really respected Cliff a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
Not only is a Ford dealer, but a banker, and in every aspect, Cliff Webber was not a short man like he was physically. He was a tall man, at least twice as tall as he was. And we had lots of discussions when we were trying to hire somebody to run the bank, to tell you the truth. And his wife, Faye, who died not too long ago, she'd say, now when you go to a party, you and Cliff ain't supposed to get off in the corner and talk banking business. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you were a businessman all the time. You were always having to do some type of business.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You served as chairman of the board on the Cuero Industrial Foundation too.
Yes. You know, the school bought that land out there for maybe $500 an acre from the railroad.
Mm-hmm.
Well, later on, and I don't remember how much later. Later on, the railroad company had the rest of it for sale, but they wanted $700 an acre.
Mm-hmm.
And the Industrial Foundation didn't have the money.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have the $500, but we bought it and paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all it had out there was a rock crusher and a lot of rocks.
So did y'all sell rock to raise money?
Exactly.
Oh, well, good.
CWA Sparks out of Victoria.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether they came to me or I went to them and said, we got all these rocks out here. Would you like to buy them? And they said, yeah. So we entered into an agreement with them to buy the rocks. Well, overall, I think we sold about nearly $200,000 worth of rocks. But during the time we were working with them, Mike Weber said, you reckon we're getting credit for all those rocks they're holding out of there? I said, well, I believe so. The Sparks are reputable people in Victoria. He said, well, I'm not so sure, but I got a guy that we can have very reasonable to count them, to check their count. He did, we did. And a few months later, he come back and said, say, you remember I told you we need to hire somebody to verify their count? Mm-hmm. Their count is greater than his.
Ever had the vision that the Pebble Ridge would be there now? Is that kind of what your vision was?
Yeah, I guess so. Nothing very concrete. That came along after I left, I think. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, it's really nice to see Weber Motor Company up there.
Oh, yeah, it really is. Very nice. Mm-hmm. And they're very asset to the town. And then the rest home's up there, too. And
yes.
Then the other rest home. The apartment house up there, you notice that?
Sir?
Have you ever noticed there's an apartment house up there?
Yes, yes, there's an apartment.
I'll tell you how that got there.
How'd that get there?
There was a developer from Portland by the name of Perry Horine,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe he was also out of Crawford. He came to me one day and he said, yo, not filling that subdivision up out there. Mm-hmm. Exactly. I'll help you, but you got to give me something. Mm-hmm. If you'll give me the land to put an apartment house on, the very next one I build, I'll buy from you. I'll buy the land. Mm-hmm. The board said, that sounds like a reasonable deal. It was not in use. Mm-hmm. So we gave him the land. He built the house. He never lives anymore. So, and in the meantime, he died.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But, all those rocks and stuff not very appropriate to building houses, but I noticed they're building some houses up there now.
Oh, there's some
in the
beautiful
quarry,
homes up
they call it the quarry.
Yes, yeah. So that's going to be a big asset for Cuero.
Oh, I think so, yeah. And I tell you what, I'm tickled to death to see all these young people coming here. Mm-hmm. Us old people, we're gone. We don't contribute much anymore, but people like this that are moving here from Houston, that's wonderful.
Yes, Well, and I've been
And-
seeing the trend, you know, and as for you, you know, when you graduate from high school, you couldn't wait to get out of Cuero, Texas.
Absolutely.
And, you know, go off to school and go to the big city and this and that.
Yeah.
But then they're all starting to trickle back home.
Right.
You know, even my children, they're saying, okay, my kids are getting to the school age. I want them to, you know,
Sure.
be raised in Cuero. And
Sure,
so
sure,
a lot of the younger
sure.
generation are moving back
Oh,
to
that's
Cuero.
wonderful. Moving of the younger generation back here. I was pleased. Dr. Reese is my doctor,
Mm-hmm.
and I went to see him Monday. And he had a young doctor that's in his third year residency in Fort Worth,
Mm-hmm.
whose name is John Hartman. But he's not kin to the Hartmans out at Myersville. He's kin to some other Hartmans. His daddy used to be a mail carrier here years ago.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I asked John, I said, we'd sure like to see you come back to Cuero, because Dr. Reese is 78 years old. I didn't know, didn't know that.
I didn't know. I was wondering how old he was. I'm just
Well,
wondering how long
Mike
he's gonna
Weber
stay.
told me that. He
Oh,
and
really?
Mike are about that same age, I
Uh-huh.
think. He told me that just the other day. And so he's working on Dr. Reese out there.
Mhm.
And I said to him, I sure hope you come here and settle here. And he said, I'd like to. I said, good.
Yeah,
We need young people.
we do need some young
And,
people.
and every time I see somebody young that's moving here, I say, thank God, thank you for coming here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because we need young people.
We do. We need that younger generation to start working in some of these organizations that we've all been involved in.
Ain't
so
that
many
the
years.
truth? Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, and that I'm, you know, the director of the chamber,
Yeah.
and you were on the chamber board.
I was on the chamber board, and I'll tell you what, you probably don't know this. Phil Ernst's wife was the director of the chamber at one time. Did you know that?
Yes, I did.
You did
Yes,
know that?
uh-huh.
Well, guess how Walmart came here?
How did Walmart come here?
She called me up one day and she said, y'all got that land out there on the Victoria Road? And I said, yeah. She said, would you like to sell it? I said, you better believe it.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, well, meet me out there with this man from Temple. I think, no, not from Temple. College Station, I guess. Brian. She said, he's a realtor procurer for Walmart. And they would really like to go out on the Yoakum Highway because they like to be on the right side leaving town.
Mm-hmm.
But those people won't sell them the land out there across from the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So they said, meet me out there with him. And we met out there. They gave us, they bought 7 acres at $20,000 an acre. And that's the only way we were able just to get the funds to develop the property. The city would not run electricity out there, and the gas company wouldn't run gas out there. And we couldn't get anybody to pay the roads.
Mm-hmm.
It was just something. And if it hadn't been for the Chamber of Commerce and particularly Cherie Ernster,
Mm-hmm.
we might not have ever developed it out there.
Yeah.
And then Coke came along and also bought some, I don't know how many acres, maybe 8 acres, $20,000 too.
Yeah.
Does the city still own a piece of that warehouse out there?
I think the Cuero Development Corporation does.
Does it?
Yes, I think the Cuero Development Corporation does.
Hmm.
Yeah. So what are some of the activities that you did when you were on the chamber board?
I didn't do very much, but Cherie was a good manager. She worked like you do. I mean, she worked at it, you know?
Yeah. What are some of the other directors that you remember with the chamber?
Well, Penn Beakley and Ray Smith, and most of them are gone. Most
Yeah.
of
Do you
them are
remember
dead.
Polly Howerton?
Did I know Polly?
I think everybody knew Polly.
My housekeeper used to work for Polly.
Oh, okay, okay.
And when Polly's estate was settled, and they sold a lot of her pictures, my wife bought a bunch of them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, they're here somewhere, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where. Well, she probably gave some to the kids too.
Yeah, yeah. So.
Oh, Polly was something, wasn't she?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I tell you, somebody you probably don't know because I think she died. Jeanette Woodruff. Have you ever heard that name?
No, I don't think so.
Now, you talk about a mover and a shaker. That lady was. She was a big person, physically a big person.
Mm-hmm.
And she was really interested in the library. She got my wife interested in the library when my wife was a young woman. But Jeanette was up pretty good. But you ever heard the name of Bill Combs?
Mm-hmm. And you know a lot of history about Cuero. We've talked a lot about the past. So what are some of your views on the future of Cuero? What would you like to see happen in Cuero?
Stay like it is.
Stay like it is.
We'll never be a metropolis. And I don't really have a lot of natural things for us. But it's just a good place to be, you know.
It is. It is.
Sitting next to Victoria, I think our growth will be limited to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
Victoria is growing, they tell me now.
Mm-hmm.
At one time they were stagnant, but they're building a new Walmart out there.
Right. They just opened up a new Walmart, and I
On
think
Lone Tree Road, yeah.
yeah, I think what helped them a lot was the Caterpillar plant.
Caterpillars helped them, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? When we first came to Texas, Victoria was smaller than Cuero.
Really.
A lot of people have said that when Cuero voted to buy the electrical distribution system
Mm-hmm.
and ran CP&L out of town, CP&L,
Mm-hmm.
that we lost the ability of CP&L's staff to secure new business.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, that's so much of bull. They might have secured business for Victoria, but they did not for Yorktown or for Kennedy or all those other towns where there've been some inflated price power to the local citizens.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people, there was a lot of bitterness when that took place. They divided the town pretty
Did
much.
they?
There was a lot of bitterness. And Terry Newman led the fight for the city to buy the power plant.
Mm. Okay. What do you think about all this Eagle Ford shale that's going around? Did you ever dream that we would be
Never.
inundated with oil
Never,
again in Cuero, Texas?
never in my wildest time. Never, ever. Yeah, I'm sure it's good and bad.
There's pros and cons.
But I tell you what, we got a county judge that really gets after the legislature. He spends lots of time in Austin.
He does. He does.
And I'm impressed him. And I like Benny Proud. I've liked Benny Proud all his life and
Mm-hmm.
all my life. But Benny and I both probably need to retire. You know? I know I did. Because I don't have the fire in my belly like I used to, you know?
Right. Right. Well, it's bringing a lot of new money into Cuero.
It is
which will
bringing,
help with
it's bringing some new money. It's tearing up the roads, though. It's terrible.
Yeah.
And, but that I was getting around to tell you about that. That new judge has been spending lots of time in Austin with the legislature,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe he's going to do some good.
I think he's gonna get us some money for the roads and the
Yeah.
highways and things like that. I think he's gonna work in the right direction to do that.
Yeah, I do too.
You know, in the city with the all the new sales tax and stuff, I think they're able to work on a lot of amenities in Cuero that's been run down through the years. Because Cuero was never a
Oh, have we got a good mayor now, though?
Yes, yes.
Oh, Sarah, I think the world knows her.
Mm-hmm.
And I like Bob. And did you ever get to know Bob, her first husband?
Yes, yes.
Wonderful person.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, we've been pretty close to the Post family for years. They did all our building,
Mm-hmm.
and they built those metal buildings on the old building that the city took down threw away. You know.
So you're hoping that Cuero just kind of stays the.
I don't believe we can become a great metropolis.
No, I think it.
And I think this is very providential, getting all this oil play.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to help do some things that maybe we couldn't do before.
Right.
It's going to be helpful, but I don't think it's going to make a metropolis.
Well, no, and I hope we keep the history of Cuero, like your beautiful home here. How many years have you lived in this home?
Since 1950.
1950. You've lived
This house was built in 1895.
1895.
And by Mr. Lewis Gorn.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's one of his grandchildren or great-grandchildren that's in the Congress from East Texas.
Oh, okay.
Lewis Gorn from East Texas, either Tyler or somewhere on there.
Mm-hmm.
And this man was a judge over there, and went to a judges group meeting over in Corpus Christi,
Mm-hmm.
and dog legged by here, and I took him through the house. He'd never seen the house before,
Oh.
and the house was in a terrible shape, to tell you the truth.
Mm-hmm.
It had a butler's pantry,
Uh-huh.
but a little sink in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
I think the man's wife lived there, and she died, and then it was vacant for about 5 years before we bought it.
Before y'all bought it?
Yeah.
Mhm.
My wife found it, and we lived in apartments, and I'd been in the Army, and I wasn't really hurt to buy anything. I was just glad to be out of the Army.
Mm-hmm.
I was in there 3.5 years, 2 years overseas,
Yeah.
and so she found it, and her mama financed it.
Oh, okay.
Guess what?
What's that?
$11,000.
$11,000 you paid for this beautiful home.
That's what we gave for it.
Well, that's
And-
one thing. We hope that we can keep a lot of the historical homes and
Yeah,
buildings in Cuero, because that's where the history is.
but you know what? The true historian is dead.
And who would you say that would be?
And I would say that would be Isabel Schaffner.
Isabel Schaffner.
Have you run that name before?
Oh, yes. Yes, Miss Schaffner was a school teacher.
I know she was.
Yeah, yeah.
But she was a historian of Coral.
She was a historian at Cuero.
She got us to do whatever we did to this house, and she did a lot with other people as well.
Right.
Isabel was a lot of people thought she was kind of quirky, but she was a true historian.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she got Lucretia Anderson in the library beside Jeanette Woodward. She took over.
I was telling somebody, we were talking about me doing this interview with you, and I was telling them I can still see Miss Summers. You never saw Miss Summers walk out of this house unless she was dressed from head to toe in her stiletto heels, and
And
she was
high
a beautiful
hair-
woman.
high
Got
hair.
Well, she was kind of a short woman, so sometimes you got to put a little height on you.
Right, exactly.
God, she was a beautiful woman.
I never could get her to exercise, though. I believe she might still be living if she'd exercise.
Oh yeah.
You know why?
Why's that?
She don't mess her hair up. Really?
She didn't want to mess her hair up.
Didn't want to mess her hair up. See, it'll mess my hair up.
It'll mess my hair up. I have to remember that next time I have to exercise. I don't think
Yeah.
I want to exercise today because I'm going to mess my hair up.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, she was an incredible woman. She was.
Well, I think so. And I lived with her for, let's see, she died when she was 85, so I guess we were married pretty close to 60 years, but not quite. Yeah, we were married 63 years and 8 months, come to think of it.
63 years and 8 months.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Wow.
right.
That's a milestone in itself.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. And I mean, you being 95 years old, that's a milestone.
I don't know how that happened.
You exercise every day.
Well, I had some bad habits as a young person.
Oh.
You know, you don't go to UT without being kind of halfway drunk, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
I may have forgotten a lot of stuff, particularly about the bank. We didn't touch much on the bank, but
Is there anything else you want to add about the bank?
the bank is very alive and well.
Mm-hmm.
We got the best staff we ever had.
Uh-huh.
We got the best board we ever had. We got people like Ray Reese on the board now, young person, and a smart man, a very smart man. Ray has brought a lot to the board. And we got Bear Weiniger, and we got Greg Gossett.
Yes.
Good, smart man there, too, a young man. And we got Mike Weber, and then he got me.
Well, you bring a lot to the table, and they
guess
know
what I've been trying to do for the last 5 years?
What's that?
Get out of being chairman. I said, let me go, let me go.
Well, I hear that you're...
They said, we don't want to hurt your feelings. I said, you ain't hurting my feelings. Let me go. So they finally this year they made me chairman emeritus.
Oh, okay, okay.
And we
And I
won't-
hear you're gonna step down this year?
I'm going to step down. I've already told them I'm not going to stand for re-election as chairman, but I'm going to still be on the board.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be chairman emeritus.
Mm-hmm.
And we got some good people on the board. Ken Stimson's possibly might be my successor. I don't know. He's the vice chairman.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Well, the bank has grown over the years.
oh, it has. It has.
When you started out with 3 employees and now you have,
It was about 66.
I was gonna say, I know over 50, and you have,
And we
how many
get,
branches do you have now?
well, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 5, 6, I guess.
6 branches.
But let me tell you this: we're getting ready to break ground in New Braunfels for another
Oh.
branch.
Wonderful.
I don't know whether that should go in. I don't think it's publicized yet, but
Well, it probably will be by the time this is done.
yeah. But let me tell you this: we had through some rough times, and I gotta give Bill Howard a lot of credit.
Mm-hmm.
He spent a lot of nights in his office working to pull us through, and he did. And we have his son now, Jay Howard.
Yes, yes.
I got the whole Howard family has been very, very. Well, they kept us from going under, but like the Michelle did, for instance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They should have had us, Howard, too, but they didn't. But we were. There was a lot of banks went under. A lot of banks still went under.
There are a lot of banks still going under. Yes, yes.
But hopefully we won't. We're trying to keep it local, keep it here, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I did want to mention this about the Howard family because they're very instrumental in where we are now.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. They're very sweet people.
Even though I called Jay's daddy a hip shooter, and he knows I called it to him to his face because he is kind of a hip shooter, but he sure pulled our bank through. And we were in bad shape.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I think maybe that was when Cliff was still living.
Mm-hmm.
But on the whole, I've enjoyed Cuero very much. Lucretia loved it.
Well, we're very fortunate to have y'all in our community.
She was from Yoakum. I don't know whether you knew that or not.
And where?
Yoakum?
Yoakum.
Yeah.
Oh, man, y'all must have rivalried on Friday nights sometimes.
Oh, yeah, yeah, exactly. And she went to Baylor, and I went to Texas.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't get to know each other until after we were both out of college.
Oh.
In fact, I was pinned to a girl from Houston and giving her my fraternity pin. And Lucretia and I started going, she said, "Where's your fraternity pin?" I said, "In Houston." She said, "Get it." And we went up there on a Sunday. She went with me.
She went with you.
And I put her in the movie, and I went and got my fraternity pin.
Oh, that's interesting. That's what I said. You're just full of interesting stories.
Well,
I could sit here all day.
I
and
don't know
talk
how
to you.
interesting they are, but at the time they were kind of they were scary. You know, I didn't know how things were going to turn out.
Right, right.
Life has been very good to me. I don't deserve it. I first admit I don't deserve it. But life's been very good to me, and I love people, and I guess I always will.
Well, Mr. Summers, it has been my pleasure sitting here
Well,
with you
you-
today
you
and
cer-
reminiscing over the
You
past.
certainly helped me, I tell you.
Well,
And anything I can do, if I think of anything, I'll call you up.
you call me and stay in touch, and if you know of any other history that you'd like to share with me, because this is something that we'll have forever. You know,
Yeah,
the
that's right.
future of Cuero can come in, and our visitors can come in, and they can come and listen to this audio at the museum and be able to reminisce right along with us.